We're on a hold on. Let me go back. Get it together. When you're editing this, it's gonna go it's gonna go up to the ceiling, bro. They're gonna come to me and be like, oh, so we're the trenches now, huh? I'm like, okay, relax. Oh my god, we haven't done this in so long. Oh my gosh, we're such girls. Okay. Welcome back everyone to the On Water podcast. I am your host, Jin Choi. What happens with your relationship with God on your own in that vertical before the horizontal? Yeah. I was so excited for this new generation that's coming up that's so on fire for Christ. I want this to be an outlet for people to feel encouraged and to know that God can do so much more with your obedience than you can possibly believe. Welcome back, everyone, to On Water Podcast, episode 35. We were just giggling back here because we haven't been doing this in so long. The month of March has been empty, but you know what? That's fine with me. I am still in love with this platform. I'm still in love with you guys, and so we'll keep going. It's been quite a long time since I have been here with you guys, and I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are feeling the joy of the Lord. And even if you're not, I hope that the joy of the Lord is still present with you, even in moments of sadness. But yeah, I wanted to come here today and share with you guys just the amount of great and wonderful things that God has been doing in my life and that He's shown me and revealed to me. And I'm going to bring it back to a comment that someone made before, where this podcast is if like I'm a older younger sister and we're just chatting and we're just talking about life, and I love to do that because sorry. This is a leather couch, okay? Relax I would not be that rude to you. Jamie's dying. I'm sorry. We're 5. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I was talking about how I want to check in with you guys, and yeah, it's like we're having our little coffees and we're talking about life and how God has been moving. And so I'm ready to do that. So the past month or so has been such a spiritually uplifting and refreshing time for me. And one of the reasons for that is because I've been fasting. And I think I've mentioned this before when it comes to fasting, that it's less of I'm going to fast for this long because I want God to do something within this time, or I'm praying for something I'm fasting for. Like, fasting is not a means to an end. Fasting is in and of itself, the process of it and doing it, the putting away your flesh for the sake of it being a reminder that you are the Lord's and that you are set apart. That is the win. That is the good thing. And so we're not using fasting as a way to gain anything or ask God for stuff. But yeah, the process in itself has been a edifying thing for me. And that being said, fasting for me during Lent this season has been after, like, I'm not having dinner. The reason why I chose to not have dinner is because I love dinner. I think out of all of the meals that I have, dinner is the one that I most often participate in. Usually I forget breakfast and I forget lunch. I know, unhealthy. I'm aware, but that was my lifestyle. Okay. And I know a lot of other people are the same way, that they start off the day busy, they go and they skip breakfast and lunch, and then they go to a midday snack and then dinner, which was basically my life. And so when I was thinking about and praying about what I was going to sacrifice and fast for Lent, dinner was, I knew it had to be dinner because there was a resistance. Because I was like, oh my gosh, then I won't, like, whenever I go out, I can't go out in the evening because most of the time it's dinners that I hang out with my friends and all that stuff. If I do end up going to some event in the evening, I can't fully participate with the people around me, because if we go to a restaurant, I'm just going to sit there with my water. Fun. And I was just thinking of all the different ways that like removing eating in the evening and nighttime will affect my life. And I was like, I'm just not fasting food Like the sacrifice that I'm giving is beyond just food. It is the lifestyle that I choose to have. And am I willing to let go of that and let that be set apart for the Lord too? And I was like, okay, this is going to be a very interesting time for me because I'm going to have to really reorient my entire life towards this fast. And that means like I have to eat in the morning. And trust me, I don't feel hungry in the morning. I usually don't. And it's probably because I used to eat late at night. But I don't know. That's just a hypothesis. But I would eat late and then in the morning I wouldn't feel like eating, and that's why I would miss all of my morning meals. But this time around, I have to get up and I have to make sure that I'm eating a proper meal in the morning. And if I'm out in the afternoon, I can't just book my time from 12 to 5 all the way through. I need to take a break in order for me to eat so that I can last between 5 and the next day. And it's been a while since I fasted food. And so I was, oh my gosh, there's a lot of things that I actually have to reorient. If I'm for 50 days, I'm doing this. Like I'm going to have to do that. And I started on March 5th, which was Ash Wednesday. And I was like thinking about all the things that I have to consider. And I obviously over the course of time, I learned as well. And the thing that I realized was when you're centering something like around the sacrifice, like this is a sacrifice that I'm giving to God, and you orient your life around it, your whole life starts to change. And it's crazy because I would now, before, I keep saying now and before, but let's say now that I'm fasting, when I wake up, I'm hungry. And I wake up because I'm hungry. Okay. Because because I sleep late, I'm a night owl. And so my brain is the most active around like 10, 11, 12. But then now I've been trying to sleep early because I wake up like this at 8 o'clock. I'm marved, fam. I'm marved. My body's giving me food. And so I wake up at 8 o'clock and I have to eat. But that's the thing. I made a promise to myself and a promise to God. And this aligns with even the last podcast episode of keeping consistent because you've made promises to yourself and to God. And that's how you love yourself and how you love God. But I made a promise to myself and God that in the mornings, I would first do my devotional before I ate anything. That I would make sure that He is the priority before I go in towards it. Even if I wake up and I'm hungry, I don't rush towards the fridge. I slow down. I'm like, I know I'm hungry, but this time I'm going to give to God. And usually it's an hour or so. And so I've been spending good time with God because I want to eat. And so I'm like, okay, I got to do my devotional. But the thing is, when I start doing my devotional, like the Lord starts to feed me and He starts to and I forget about my hunger in that hour. And I've been, I guess, fulfilled in that moment. And I end up spending that full hour with God and in His word and in prayer. And it just starts off my day so well. And I feel like it's so crazy because in the beginning, I was thinking of all the things I had to sacrifice. And then now that I'm a month in and I have 2 weeks left of this fast, I'm thinking of all of the benefits and all the great things, all the good things that God has done through this change. And changes I probably should have made a long time ago, but I just never did because it was just for me. Like if it's just for my comfortability, obviously I wouldn't do it. But it's because I'm going to dedicate these 50 days to you. It made it so much more, I guess my commitment to God is more stronger than my commitment to myself. And the effects of this fast and the things that I thought were so difficult to sacrifice actually have become easier. And even, I don't tell everyone like, oh yeah, I'm fasting, blah, 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 because that is not biblical. But the people that I have told on my day-to-day life that I'm doing this fast, like they have, one, kept me accountable, and they have supported me, and they've made this process a lot easier. And so it's really helped me in my community and community building. And so like, I'm just looking at all the beautiful things that God has done through this fast. And I'm just so grateful. And yeah, and I think sometimes separating your fleshly desires from the will of God, but also the things that you've committed to God, they get blurry because you feel like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be set apart. I'm going to be good. And you set those things for yourself, but then you stumble and fall and you're like, oh, okay. Oh no, I did it again. And then you repent and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And then you do it again. And it just becomes this thing that it becomes cyclical. And I think one thing that's great about a fast is because I am dedicating this time, right? At least for the next 50 days, this is what I'm going to do. And it feels more intentional. And so rather than just being like, okay, like for the rest of my life, I'm going to try my best not to do this, or I'm going to try my best to stay away from this temptation. 100%, that's what we're called to do. But I think when you have a specific time that you dedicate to the Lord and you stick by it and you're like, at least for the 50 days, that's what I'm going to do. It makes doing it for life easier because you see how good it is to sacrifice for the Lord. I feel so good right now doing this fast. Like I feel so good about it. And I think it's because I have stuck to it enough to reap the fruits of this sacrifice. And I think for so long in our lives, on our day-to-day lives, we continue to sacrifice for God because we're like, okay, yeah, I want to run away from temptation. And I don't want to be like falling into my flesh all the time. And we make these things and we declare these things, but then we don't stick to it long enough to see the fruits of our sacrifice. And then we get frustrated and we're like, we fall again. And it's just like a cyclical thing. But I think I'm realizing the beauty of the commitment and committing these 50 days to changing my whole lifestyle around being set apart in this season in this way. I have seen the benefits of it. And I think I was talking about this with my mentee this morning, where this, like, when I'm telling you I'm marved, like most of the day, I am. Like, I am. Like, I sleep late, so I wake up late. And so there's only a certain amount of time where I can eat. And then I'm working. So then sometimes I don't have any time. And then it's already like 4:30. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to eat before 5. And I freak out because because there are some days where I feel like my stomach is hurting because I'm hungry. But that's the thing. What's so crazy is that even before the fast, I was like, every single time that I'm hungry is going to be a reminder of how hungry I should be for the Lord. And every single time during this fast that I am hungry and that I'm like hurting and I'm in pain, I'm like, this is what the Lord asks us. That's what he intends for us to feel about him and his presence. It's like, I am physically in pain because I cannot be with the Lord. I am physically, mentally, emotionally, and I get hangry all the time. It's, like I can't stand just being here without God. Waking up in the day being like, I need God. That's what he intends for us. If we understand the weight of his role in our lives and who he is, when we understand the depths and the gravity of who he is, we will feel that. And I think this fasting experience is just a reminder of that. Every single time you're hungry, remember I am your daily bread. I am the one who sustains you and fills you. And food is a good representation of that, but he is what sustains me. And so how am I going to crave food more than I crave the Lord? And so this is what I'm saying, that I'm not fasting so that at the end of the day, I receive something. I'm fasting as a reminder of his sacrifice, as a reminder of how much he is more worthy than the things of my flesh and the desires of my flesh. And this fasting process is my reward, which is crazy to say. Me sacrificing, me being set apart at this time, me saying that dedicating this and committing this to the Lord is worth more than what my body could ever want. That is the gift. And I'm so happy to have this gift. So yeah, I said I wasn't going to go on too long. So I'm going to move. This is literally just part 1 of what I wanted to share today. Crazy. But yeah, so I'm going to give like a little bit of example of how this has played out in my life. There was a conference that I went to last Saturday, and it was a event that my friend, Bosco, he was helping run, and he does a lot of things, and he loves the Lord. He gets excited to do. He's a very like administratively and just he's great at doing all these events and stuff like that. And he was advertising a missions conference that was happening at a Korean church here in Toronto. And it was a missions conference. And I was like, okay, this sounds really cool. And it was $30 for a ticket. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go. And I asked him like when it was and all that stuff. And I ended up buying a ticket. And then on the Friday evening before the conference, I was like, I don't want to go. Oh, no. I was like, I don't want to go. I genuinely don't want to go. And there was multiple reasons why I didn't want to go. One, because that Friday evening I had youth, and so I was at church until pretty late. And I hadn't had a break from work in a long time. Like I hadn't had a day off in a long time. And I was like, God, I just want to like sleep in. I just want to like just take the day slow. And I'm like, I'll spend the time with you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it can be my Sabbath so I don't have to go out anywhere. But it wasn't sitting well with me. Like even till like late at night, I was like, oh God, I don't want to go. And I was like, okay, but I feel like this tension. I feel this pull. And I was like, okay, God, I told myself that I would dedicate this time to removing myself from my flesh and just going according to your will and following your footsteps. Obviously, I'm trying to do that all days of my life, but specifically in this season during Lent. And so I was like, okay, God, the event starts at 9. And so I'm going to wake up. I'm going to spend my time with you. And during that time, can you make it clear whether I should go? And in order for me to, because the doors open at 8, and so for me to get ready and have time and have a full hour for the Lord, I have to get up at 6:30. And I was like, oh, please tell me I don't have to go so I can wake up at 6:30, do my devos, and then go to sleep. That's what I was hoping for. And let's be real. That's my flesh talking. I know this in hindsight, but in the moment I was like, but God also loves me to have rest. So like, why not? It definitely was my flesh talking. And so I wake up at 6:30 and I'm having this time with God. And it's not even like oh, no, you have to go because you're going to receive this. It's just like, obey. You need this. You know that this is where you need to go. And after some reflecting and working through it with God, I realized like, one, I was scared to go. One, because there's a lot of people and I'm going by myself. So I don't have someone like because they gave you a Chick-fil-A lunch. They give you snacks and there's like different booths that you can go to and learn about new things. And you go to like breakout rooms and it's a whole day conference. And I'm so used to going with people. And I'm used to having people around me and used to feeling like I have someone to socially lean on. And I didn't because I don't know. I didn't really tell many people that I was going because I wasn't even sure I was going. And I was like, oh, like to go somewhere with like hundreds of people and you sitting by yourself. It's just like it's a very vulnerable thing. And so I think I was scared to go. But also it was in a Korean church. So I know majority like of people over there are going to come from Korean churches. And I was really scared to see someone that I knew. So I had all of these thoughts. And I was like, God, I'd rather just not go and just be at home by myself. And in the morning, God was like, absolutely not. Like you're gonna go. And so I decided to go and I was like, I'm just going to obey. And I gave myself an out. I was like, by noon, like it's the first session and then you have a break and then the second session and then it's the breakout rooms in the afternoon. And I was like, if by the end of the second session, I don't feel good and I don't feel safe and this doesn't feel good for me, I'm going to pray about it, ask the Lord to have mercy and allow me to leave. And so I was like, okay, at least I'm going. So I go to the conference and I go in, and again, I haven't been to a Korean church in years. Like I went to, like I told you guys in past episodes, I've been at my Korean church and was at my old Korean church for 15, 16, 17, I don't even know how many years. But I was there for a long time. And even while I was there, I was like a part of the English ministry. And it's been a while since I've been around a big population of Korean Christian community. And ever since I left, I've been in like multicultural, mostly a lot of Brazilians, but a lot of like white, Black community folk and not a lot of East Asians. And so when I walked into the church, I was like someone had greeted me, but they greeted me in Korean because I look Korean. And it immediately was like, oh. And then I responded in Korean, and then they were like, oh, like, where do you need to go? And I said, oh, I need to go over here. And then they escorted me, blah, blah, blah. It was a very strange experience because it had been so long. It's been almost 5 years since I've been at a Korean church. Yeah. And so I went into the sign-in, and I checked myself in, and I got my badge, and I got all these different things. And then I went to the main sanctuary where we were starting off the conference. And I obviously, one thing that's great about going to a conference or like an event alone is that you can sit wherever you want. And no one's going to be like, oh my gosh, let's all sit here together. It's just, you just choose somewhere. And most people, they always, even if they're like they're strangers, but there's like a group of them on each side, they always leave 2 seats in the middle in between the groups. And as someone who's alone, I can just sit in one of those seats and it'll be fine. So I found a seat closer to the front because I was by myself, and I sat down, and I felt safe. I felt good. And they were introducing the conference, and mind you, this is a pretty big church. This is one of a mega church in Toronto when it comes to like Korean churches. It's pretty big. And I've heard about Kunbit, and that's the name of the church, Light Presbyterian. And I've heard about this church, but I've never gone there. And it was a new building for me. But majority of the people around me were like, not just young people. They were like, they did a tally or like a survey in the beginning of the conference, which was like the oldest person and the youngest people in the room. And I think the oldest person was almost 80 years old. Yeah. And there was a lot of people in their 60s and 70s at this conference. And I think the youngest person was 17, like actual participants was like 17 years old. And it was so crazy. Seeing all of these like old Korean 할머니, 할아버지, like old grandparents and seeing them was just, I forgot that feeling. And yeah, because I haven't been in a Korean community in so long. It was very interesting. And it was starting worship. So they did the survey, they introduced the conference, and then they did worship. And what's great, again, about going to a event alone is that you can do whatever you want. You're not going to see these people again. You know what I mean? So low commitment. And so I was in worship, and Jamie's dying. And they obviously, worship is amazing. I love to worship. And so it was a good time. And then at the last song, it was crazy because the last song they had decided to sing How Great Is Our God. I think that's the title. And they sang it in multiple languages. And because it was a missions conference, obviously that makes sense. They sang it in several, I think 4 or 5 different languages. And obviously because it's a bigger Korean population, they sang a big portion of the song in Korean. And right when they started to sing it in Korean, I started to cry. And I was not expecting that. And I realized like the connection. Oh my God. I haven't cried on the pod in a long time. It's okay. I'm good. I think the connection between culture and how you experience God is so powerful. I think like I've abandoned that because like for a long time, because I've been in like international, like multicultural churches, and there's not a lot of people that look like me. I feel like I feel more like I have to abandon my culture for the sake of assimilation and for the sake of like feeling like I'm a part of something. Yeah, like I felt like I have to put myself in a place that is culturally acceptable. And I feel like that's why I'm very aware and very integrated into other people's cultures. Because, like I said, I know a lot of Brazilian people and a lot of Jamaican people. And so it's a lot easier for me to just be learning and learn their mannerisms and be a part of the community that I've been placed in. But to be in a place where I don't feel like I have to do that. And there's so many times I feel like being away from people that look like me and speak the same language as me. And just like some things you just don't have to explain. I think like being away from that for a long time has made it very isolating sometimes. And I think I didn't notice how much it was affecting me until I got there. I didn't see how much I needed that. And I know it was like people who are Korean go to Korean churches, like it's just, oh yeah, like whatever. But and I think I was like that when I was at my Korean church, but I think I'm not trying to hide my culture or be ashamed of it at all. It's if you see someone who is the same ethnicity as you, you're like, okay, there's just already like a thing. Yeah, I think I was missing that for a long time. And even at my church, I'm loved and I'm accepted there, and they're great, and they're trying to. I've seen many people try and put in a lot of effort to get to know my culture, but that's the thing. It's to be one of the only people who is Korean there. I don't come from a place where I feel belonging. I come from a place where I have to teach. And sometimes that's difficult. It's the feeling that you have to be the person who has to be the teacher and the explainer and all that stuff of your culture. I know, and I love the fact that people want to do that for me. But sometimes you just want to be comfortable and be able to engage in my cultural background without having to be that explainer and that teacher. And so, sorry for all the listeners. I feel like I've been crying and I'm just so nasty. But yeah, and I think this, like even just that part of the conference of being able to sing in my own language was very healing for me. I think it made me realize how much I had been craving that, how much I've been wanting that. And yeah, and I think it's more than just, oh yeah, there's other Korean people singing with me. It's like that feeling of comfort that I feel like it's like when you're in the trenches for so long, you forget what peace feels like. And I'm not saying that my church is the trench. No. I know a lot of Queensway people watch this, so don't take it out of context, you dutties. Anyways. And I'm watching you. They're going to come to me and be like, oh, so we're the trenches now, huh? I'm like, okay, relax. And what I'm saying is, don't take it out of friggin' context. What I'm saying is, it's like whenever someone goes back home, and because Toronto is such a multi-diverse place, most people's homes are not here. Most people's homes are back wherever they immigrated from. There is a sense of comfort and a sense of belonging that you feel with the people who are the same background as you. And I think because a lot of my interactions with people who are like me were in the church, and now that it's not, I think to be in that same context again. And the one thing that I know that Koreans do really well is missions. and evangelism. And it's because our country was built, like the Christian community in Korea was mostly built by Western missionaries. And they have experienced the blessing, the gratitude of the hard work of missionaries. And so they are dedicated to doing the same thing. And I think that's so powerful. I think in multi-diverse Canadian Western churches, they don't focus a lot on missions because they all learn from family and they learn from people who, generations and generations of people who were in the church, and they're focused on building the church in the city, which is 100% great, amazing. But I think to know and to cultivate a culture in the church focused on mission work and evangelism is something that the Korean Christian church does really well. And so even seeing the strength of the Korean culture in that space was just amazing for me. And I think, yeah, I felt a sense of belonging. And I want to talk about the conference in the next episode, which I will do. Okay? Because I want to show you guys something. And I'm sorry for all the listeners. If you're driving and you're listening to this, I'm sorry because you're just hearing me sniffle and not actually seeing it, but it's fine. And I'm going to show you something. So this is my notebook right now. If you can see, this big chunk is just from that Saturday. Like there's almost like 20 pages of notes just from that Saturday, because it was phenomenal. The teaching was phenomenal. I was like, wait, gotta write this down. Like it was, imagine if I stayed home and I listened to my flesh and I didn't go to God with the decision for my day. All the time we pray about, okay, God, what is my future? Okay, what direction should I go? But praying over the day. God, and you know what? I believe that if I stayed home and I spent that time with Jesus and I rested, quote unquote, and watched TV and all that stuff, God would have blessed it. Yeah. He would have made it good. I believe it. But the fact that I went, despite my fear and despite my comfort and despite my expectations, I just followed through with what God had planned for me. And also it was raining that day. And who wants to go out in the rain? Anyways, the fact that I pushed past all of those things and obeyed God led me to a place of healing, led me to a place of learning and experiencing more of him in like a way that I could not do on my own at home, sitting on my couch. And all this to say, when we choose to separate ourselves from our flesh, God will do it exponentially more and bless us exponentially more, because we're not looking at the scraps from, oh, like I am following my flesh, but at least I'm reading the Bible and I'm praying. Yeah, you know what's crazy? Those are scraps you're looking for. When you go out in obedience with God, like he just shows you something miraculous. And there's one thing that I learned the past couple of weeks, and it's a statement that I feel like will follow me in my own personal life, but even in my teaching and even in the way I disciple people. You cannot be taught and experienced with God. You cannot sit in a classroom. You cannot sit in your room and study this scripture enough and get to a point of experiencing God. You need to go. You cannot learn, okay, this is the story of Jonah. Okay, that story is a great story and it should be an inspiration, but that is not experiencing God. Experiencing God is when you step out of your room, when you step out of your house, when you step out of your comfort zone and you actually go and do something. And I think so many times we think that we can experience God in the comfortability of our own space. But experiencing God is actually moving, right? Yeah, listen to all the sermons you want.
Yeah, listen to this podcast and re-listen to it if you want, and go to all these conferences and go to all of these things and get a mentor and go to all these Bible studies. Yeah, 100%. But you cannot be taught an experience with God. It cannot be taught to you. No one can teach you, hey, through this teaching, you'll experience God. No, I'm teaching you so that you will take this information and then trust God enough to go and do something about it. And I think that is what God has led me to share with you guys today, where you're not going to really experience the fullness of God by just listening. You got to go and do. For example, I had one person come to me recently and confess a sin to me and was like, I need to be freed from this. I need to break free from this. Please, can you pray for me? And I prayed over her and I rebuked the ways of the enemy. I rebuked the things that the enemy has made her feel like she is in the clutches of the sin. And that's the thing. Imagine all she did was just like, oh yeah, like God can heal me from the sin. Oh yeah, God can break me free from these chains. That's just knowledge. She had to step forward out of her comfort zone and in this discomfort, share this sin with me. And in this discomfort, do something about this discomfort. It is because she knows that God is a gracious God. It's because she knows that God forgives sins. It's because she knows that God is the person who is going to break chains in her life. It is because of that knowledge that she turned and she did something about it. If we just sit and, okay, let's just gather more and more information. I want to use the proper words, but it's like putting the talent in the sand, in the dirt. It's not doing anything. It's when we use this knowledge, we use this good news, we use this great understanding of who God is. And then we actually do something about it, that we experience God. And so I don't know what it is for you. I don't know what it is that God wants you to do with the knowledge that he has given you. But separate yourself from your flesh, your comfortability. And that's the thing. Remember how I said I knew I had to do dinner because there was that tension? When's the last time you felt that tension? Where it was like, okay, like I can choose to do this because it's comfortable for me, but I'll sacrifice that because I know that God will rejoice in my decision to obey. We need to feel more of that tension, right? And what's great is that I felt that tension and I obeyed God, and now I'm receiving the blessings and the joy that comes with obeying God. And I hope that's a testimony that you can actually trust and follow. Because, like I said, imagine I just stayed home. Then I wouldn't have had this healing. And trust me, like next episode, I'll get into what I learned and the revelations that God gave me through this conference. And y'all, I'm ready. I'm so ready to share with you because it is, yeah, and it's perfect right before we head into Easter. This information and the information that I received from this conference, I realize isn't going to stay in these books. I'm going to do something about it. And if we all choose to do something about it, we'll see the kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And I'm really excited for that. And yeah, I guess this is where we'll end today because I feel like there's just a lot to digest even from this. And so if you would love to hear what I learned at the conference and the things that I've learned from the missions conference, tune in for the next episode. But until then, I hope that God has moved you and stirred your heart to really feel that you want the tension. And you're going to step forward and not just in knowledge, but walking in wisdom forward to doing something about the things that the Lord has taught you this week, this month, whatever it may be. Be creative with the Lord. Ask him what it is that you feel like you should be doing with the knowledge he gives you. And I hope you see kingdom come as it is in heaven. So Anyways, I thank you guys so much for enduring my tearful episode today. And God be with you. God bless you. Jesus loves you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.